What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Heat Report. And in today's video, um, I'm going to be talking about something that I prepared for, a while now, and it's me revisiting the draft comparisons on draft day of some of our players on the Miami Heat. Now, in order to figure out which players I had to choose, I thought it was going to be pretty tough. Obviously, I didn't want to do the whole team because that would take a long, long time. I narrowed it down to 5 players. But it was actually easier than I thought because a lot of our players are actually undrafted. I think we probably have the most amount of undrafted players in the league. Um so it kind of made it easier for me to narrow it down because obviously those undrafted players, I tried to look up stuff for Kendrick Nunn and Duncan Robinson, but they don't really have any reliable draft day comparisons because they weren't drafted. So I stuck with 5 players that I think are going to be big for us in the now and in the future. Um, and I will put up a picture of each of their comparisons in the video while I'm talking about these players so you guys can view it. Um, so first of all, let's start off at number 1, which is Jimmy Butler, of course. And Jimmy Butler, coming out of college, was actually compared to a former teammate of his, a former Miami Heat player as well, Luol Deng. Now, I don't know about you guys, but coming out of college, I really, really like this comparison for Jimmy. I think coming out of college, everyone knew the amount of defensive potential that Jimmy had. He was considered one of the best defenders in the draft. Luol Deng was a defensive monster. He was a very, very, very underrated player as a whole, but as a defender, he was very, very solid. I think that offensively, the thing that made Jimmy Butler better than Luol Deng was probably because he's more versatile on that offensive end. I think that he can create a shot much more easier than Luol Deng can. I think Luol Deng is more of a 3 and D type player, while Jimmy Butler can do a multitude of things on the offensive end. The big knock on Jimmy was that the reason why he was selected solo is because on offense he didn't really give you he didn't specialize in anything. Like, he was more of like a jack of all trades kind of player. He wasn't really elite at anything offensively, which is why he wasn't selected as high. But obviously, you look at guys who just got drafted this year, people realize the impact of these defensive, the guys who are defensive ready and who are projects offensively but can develop. Like Isaac Okoro, who got taken, I think, 5th. In 2011, I don't think he'd be taken 5th, but because you got guys like Jimmy Butler who have paved the way for these guys who are defensively ready, but offensively they can use some work. But if they put the work in, they can be as good as Jimmy was or Jimmy is. That's why you see guys like Isaac Okoro going so high right now. But I think, coming back to Luol Deng, the comparison, which is actually Bleacher Report made this comparison. I gotta cite my sources. Luol Deng, I think, coming out of college is a very good comparison. He was a very big piece on our team in the Heat. In 2016, I think 2016 was a year that we were actually low key contenders for the title. 2016, because I think we were the 3 seed. The reason that I think we lost Bosch. We took the Raptors to 7 without Bosch. I think we would have beat them with Bosch. Then we would have gone against LeBron and them, the Cavs. No, that I don't know what would happen there, but I think if we had Bosch, we would at least go to the Eastern Conference Finals. But yeah, I mean, just on the comparison itself, I think coming into the Jimmy Butler's first season, it's a very good comparison. Luol Deng actually mentored him as well, and he talks about Luol Deng a lot as to someone that guided him, showed him the reins, because obviously they were teammates in Chicago. The next player that we're going to be talking about is Bam Adebayo, who's our other All-Star this year, along with Jimmy Butler, or last year. And you guys may laugh at this comparison. And this is also from Bleacher Report. Bam Adebayo, coming out of college, was compared to Ed Davis. Now, no disrespect to Ed Davis, but we all know that Bam Adebayo right now has probably had a better career than Ed Davis has had in his whole career. No disrespect, Ed, if you're watching, bro. It's just facts. But you were still a pretty good player. But Bam Adebayo, I think, obviously, right now, if you look at this comparison, it's kind of funny because Ed Davis is he's Ed Davis, but coming out of college, Bam Adebayo didn't really show a lot of things that he's doing right now. I don't think a lot of people saw this playmaking ability, ball handling, the ability to guard 1 through 5. Like Bam didn't really show all this in college, and certainly not to me. I don't know if anyone else saw this in him. I knew he was going to be good. Like in his first year is when I saw the potential, but coming out of college, I didn't really see him as this player. And he was more known to just rim run and play defense. Catch lobs and protect the rim. Just be an energy player. And I think Ed Davis is an energy player. He gets a lot of rebounds. He's a pretty good rim protector. He's a pretty serviceable big. And so I don't think this is a too crazy of a pick for Bam, who was coming out of college. But right now, obviously, we know that he's past that. Like he's way better than Ed Davis was. So the sky's the limit for Bam. He's only 23. I think he's 23. Just signed the max. He's going to be a big part of our future. The next player that we have is Tyler Herro. Now Tyler Herro was someone that I actually drafted in my fantasy basketball league yesterday. Very fortunate to pick him up. But his comparison was actually made by NBA Draft.net. And Tyler Herro's comparison was actually Nick Stauskas / Joe Harris. Now, I think coming out of college, Tyler Herro was classified as a shooter, a guy that can just, catch and shoot. Kind of like what Duncan is right now, but I don't think a lot of people saw Tyler Herro's ability to put the ball on the floor and, handle, play make, just score the ball like in a multitude of ways. I think Nick Stauskas at Michigan was a very good comparison. Because at Michigan he kind of played like how Tyler Herro is playing right now. Like he was a very, very underrated player in Michigan. Like unfortunately that didn't pan out to the NBA. He was the 8th pick and didn't really live up to that potential. But I think Nick Stauskas coming out of Michigan was probably a pretty good comparison for Tyler Herro because they played very similar. Joe Harris I think Joe Harris is probably a comparison they made because he's a spot up shooter and they probably thought that Tyler Herro was going to be a spot up shooter. We know that Tyler Herro can do a lot more than just shoot the ball. He can create his own shot a lot more fluently than Joe Harris can. Shout out to Joe Harris though. He just signed a big contract. I think it was like 4 years, $75 million. Whoever his agent is needs a raise because I definitely wouldn't have given that much money, but he's a very important player for the Nets. But if I had to compare someone to Tyler Herro, it would be the guy that he's idolized, since he was a child, and that's obviously like he's not that much younger than him, but that's Devin Booker. Because I think that if he like their play styles, I know D Book can get to the rim like much more effortlessly. He's a little bit bigger. Like as far as like physicality, I think Tyler is a bit skinny, and I think that he needs to put on some weight, some muscle. But I think that at their peaks, like I think Tyler Herro can reach what Devin Booker is right now. Obviously, like it's scary. Devin Booker isn't even in his prime. Well, maybe he's in his prime, but he hasn't we don't know like if he's in his prime or not. That's what I'm saying because he's still very young. But yeah, I think that if you look at the rookie years, like both Herro and Booker averaged the same amount of points, basically like same amount of like minutes. I think identical rebounds and assist numbers, shooting numbers were pretty much the same. I think so it was very it was very scary. Like I was just comparing them their both their numbers, and it was really cool because they were very identical. Even the minutes that they played, I think D Book played like 4 more minutes, but it was very identical. Now we're gonna move on to someone that has become a fan favorite recently, especially due to his performance in the playoffs. Unfortunately, got injured in the finals. Goran Dragic is our next player. Obviously, I don't think Goran Dragic was not drafted by the Heat. He was drafted by the Spurs, if I'm not mistaken. And they actually compared him to someone who's a Spurs legend, according to NBA Draft.net, and that's Tony Parker. Now Tony Parker obviously is an NBA legend. He's a Hall of Famer for sure. I don't know if Goran Dragic is gonna be a Hall of Famer. Obviously, I'd like him to be one, but I don't know. He was only a one-time All-Star, so I don't know if he's gonna fit that bill. He hasn't won any rings or anything. If he makes it, it's not gonna be first ballot at all. He's gonna have to win some rings in the future. But as far as their play styles are concerned, I can see the comparison a lot. I think that both of them are very crafty around the rim. I think Dragic has been a very underrated player. I think I still can't believe that year that he made All NBA third team with the Suns, he wasn't an All-Star. So that kind of blows my mind. But I think like obviously as an overall like as if you compare their careers, obviously Tony Parker had the better career, but I do think a lot of that is attributed to the Spurs system. Um, would Dragic have won those rings with the Spurs? Who knows? But I think as far as like their play styles, Tony Parker and Goran Dragic is not really that far of a comparison. Very crafty around the rim, can occasionally shoot the ball. I think Tony Parker is probably a better playmaker. Um, but I like this comparison a lot. I like this comparison a lot. Lastly, we're gonna move on to someone who we just drafted this year. And for this player, we're just gonna be looking at his play from college because we haven't seen him play in the NBA. Precious Achua, who we took 20th overall. According to NBA Draft.net, this is actually very interesting. He was compared to Gerald Wallace slash Mo Harkless, who's actually on our team right now. We just signed Mo Harkless in free agency. That's pretty funny. Um, I don't see the comparison with Mo Harkless because I think Precious is a lot more athletic than what Mo Harkless is, or what Mo Harkless was. I think Mo Harkless is more of like a 3-and-D type. I think he's probably a better shooter, but I don't see the athleticism maybe I'm sleeping on his athleticism, but I don't really see his athleticism being as high as Precious is. Gerald Wallace is a very good comparison, though. I really like the Gerald Wallace comparison. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gerald Wallace, but he was a very, very, very underrated player. Similar to like Luol Deng, who was also an underrated player. Gerald Wallace was an All-Star in 2010. He's averaged about 18, 19 points, in a couple seasons, but his prime was very short. He kind of fell off, a little bit. But those 3 or 4 years where he was balling, averaging 18, 19 points, if Precious Achua can hit that, like that, those 3 or 4 years that Gerald Wallace had, he'll be very, very, very crucial for us, and it's gonna make Bam's job a lot easier because Gerald Wallace can jump out of the gym, and I think that's what you're getting with Precious. Very athletic, big. But anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for me. Make sure as always you guys leave a like, subscribe, hit that bell right next to the subscribe button so you guys don't miss any videos. Please comment down below what you guys want to see from me in the future. I will be doing my starting lineup prediction as we get closer to training camp, and as we get closer to the season. So yeah, please tell me, guys. Preseason is right around the corner. I think it's like a week or two away. So I'm gonna be tuning into that. But yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for me. Peace.